Hi everyone, I want to talk to you about teas for your soil. Last night in my greenhouse gardening class that I presented, I love when there's children in the audience. I was explaining about amending your soil, and one of the points I had on my presentation said tea, amending your soil with teas. And a young girl, I'm guessing she was about 8, maybe 10, raised her hand and said, "What kind of tea do you give your plants?" And I said, "That's a fantastic question. I give them compost tea or vermiculture or worm casting tea." And I explained what those were. And I said, now, if I just put the compost into the soil and I just put the worm castings into the soil and the soil was dry, the plants wouldn't be able to absorb up the nutrients that they need that are fixed tight, are hard and stuck inside of the compost or inside of the castings. And the water, when we water our garden, slowly dissolves those nutrients so that the roots and the root hairs can suck them up like a straw. There's actually an exchange that happens, but that's basically, they can't chew it up and access it. They have to have it already broken down for them to suck it up, if you will. And it was like, you could see the lights going off even for the grown-ups, right? There was another child in the class, and he said, "Well, wouldn't it be great, or couldn't you just always water your plants with compost tea?" Or, and I also explained adding into my compost tea, adding in aquaculture emulsions. And I said, that is a great question. The thing is, when we have tea, and I just made myself a lovely pot of Earl Grey, there's all kinds of, think of our compost tea here. We can take the compost, put it in a bag, steep it for 2 days, actually, if you would like to. Steep that tea. Yes, I squeeze the tea bags. Don't judge. I like it strong. So now the compost, if you will, has dissolved into the water, okay? And then I say, you know what? I'm going to add some fish emulsion so that I can get some trace nutrients, some micronutrients. The other cool thing about kelp and fish fertilizers or emulsions, other than them being really stinky, the great thing about them is they have plant growth hormones. Yes, even plants need growth hormones. So you can take that and you can add it to the tea. So we have our now compost tea. You can see the changing color, right? It would have been clear for water. And we have a little bit of fish emulsion. Trust me, this honey smells far better. And you mix that up, and that's piping hot, so I'm not going to drink it right now, maybe. And it's great. I am the plant. I'm going to drink this up, and I'm going to benefit from it. In my case, there's caffeine, and there's sweetness of honey. Woohoo! Maybe I will have a sip. Delicious. But let me tell you something. If you drink tea nonstop, do you feel quenched versus water? The water, we drink water, we feel hydrated. We drink good for you teas, it provides us with nutrients. You can give your plants too many nutrients. That sounds ridiculous, right? It's the same reason you can't be taking excess amounts of multivitamins. It's the same reason you need to have a balance of your different nutrients. If you were constantly watering with compost tea, you may be providing nutrients that the plant might need some of, but not only of. A good example, calcium and magnesium. Both are needed for your plants. Helps prevent blossom end rot. But if you give an excess of calcium, so people are going crazy, I told them, hey, you could use skim milk powder to add a little calcium boost. Don't do too much, because the plant roots can only take up the calcium and not the magnesium at a time. You have to ensure both are available, or sometimes a little bit of one, sometimes a little bit of the other. Plants need different nutrients at different times, and they can't take them all up at once. So giving compost tea continually will only give them the nutrients that are in that tea. And sometimes they need to actually not be taking up some nutrients or particular nutrients because they're going through different stages of their growth. And they have to actually slow down that growth depending on the type of plant they are. Whew. So, to sum, compost tea or worm casting tea, cat's meow, bee's knees, right? Adding in fish or kelp emulsions. That's going to be like the best multivitamin you can give your plants. But that would be during their active growing season, all right? Vegetables, say from the time they are true seedlings, they have their true leaves, you can start them on that, generally carry them through the growing season, and then no more fertilizer. Your perennials, your trees and shrubs, if you've got good soil, you don't need to be adding in all these amendments. But if your plants are struggling, if you see chlorosis, if the leaves are yellowing, if you know that you planted them last year and they're still establishing roots, you gave them a pruning and you want them to be able to bounce back from those energy losses that you took off. If you want to do that, amend your soil. And luckily, if you can source it, get the pre-made compost tea because it can be sticky. But this, delightful.